Husband divorced his pregnant wife at Thanksgiving dinner for her best friend, unaware she is a billionaire heiress. Listen to this. Derek, I'm 7 months pregnant with your daughter. Your daughter. I know what you are, Josie, and I'm done pretending this marriage works. The woman sitting beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched, finally spoke up. Her voice was soft, apologetic, poisonous. Josie, sweetie, we didn't plan this. It just happened. You've been so focused on the pregnancy, so distant. Derek needed someone who could actually see him. Josephine Whitmore stood frozen at the head of her own dining table, staring at her husband and her best friend. The people she trusted most in the world. The Georgian chandelier above them cast fractured light across an elaborate Thanksgiving feast she had spent 2 days preparing. Herb butter turkey, truffle mashed potatoes, cranberry compote from her grandmother's recipe, all of it cooling into waste. Her hand instinctively moved to cradle the swell of her belly. 7 months pregnant. The other hand gripped the back of a mahogany chair so hard her knuckles went white. Derek slid a manila envelope across the table. It stopped just inches from the centerpiece she had arranged that morning. Autumn leaves and white roses, symbols of gratitude and new beginnings. The irony was a knife twisting. Sign these, he said. His voice was flat, rehearsed, like he was closing a business deal. We can keep this civilized. Clean. My lawyer says we can be done in 6 months, maybe less. The woman beside him, Amber Reeves, Josie's best friend since freshman year at Boston College, reached over and placed her hand on Derek's arm. The gesture was small, but its meaning detonated in Josie's chest like a grenade. Now, before we go any further, let me ask you something. Have you ever loved someone so much that you made yourself smaller just to fit into their life? Have you ever hidden who you really are because you were afraid the real you would not be enough? This is the story of a woman who gave up billions to find real love, and the man who threw it away for nothing, not knowing what he had until it was gone forever. But what Derek Whitmore did not know, what nobody in that room knew, would turn this divorce into the most legendary takedown Manhattan's elite had ever witnessed. Stay with me, because what happens next is absolutely unbelievable. And listen, if you have ever felt underestimated or undervalued, if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, this story is for you. Hit that like button right now and let's dive in. Trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. The dining room looked like something from a magazine spread. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Upper East Side. Cream-colored walls. Original hardwood floors. The table was set for 12 people. Fine china. Crystal glasses. Silver cutlery Derek had insisted they buy for future holidays together. Every piece felt like a lie tonight. 12 empty chairs surrounded Josie. Every single guest had canceled within the last 2 hours. Derek's parents, his colleagues from work, her childhood friends, all of them suddenly unavailable. Mysterious emergencies, last-minute conflicts. The coordination was too perfect to be coincidence. Only Amber had confirmed, "I will be there, babe. Always." And she was there, sitting beside Josie's husband, close enough to touch, close enough that Josie could smell her perfume, the same Chanel No. 5 Josie had given her last Christmas. "You want me to sign divorce papers," Josie said slowly. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "On Thanksgiving, while I am pregnant with your child." Derek sighed, like she was being difficult, like she was the problem. "You are making this harder than it needs to be. Amber and I have developed real feelings. This has been coming for months, Josie. You know we have been unhappy." "Real feelings," Josie repeated. The words felt foreign in her mouth. "You have developed real feelings for my best friend." Amber's eyes finally met hers. They were wet with tears. Crocodile tears. "I am so sorry," she whispered. "I never wanted to hurt you. But Derek said you two were drifting apart. He said you did not understand him anymore, that you were not the same person he married." Something cold began to crystallize in Josie's chest. It started as shock. Pure, disorienting shock that made the room tilt and blur. But underneath it, something else was forming. Something clear and sharp as ice. A feeling she recognized from another lifetime. Before she became Derek's wife. Before she played the role of struggling academic, married to an up-and-coming tech executive. Before she made herself small enough to fit into his shadow. It was the feeling of being a Whitmore, not Josephine Whitmore, the overlooked wife. Josephine Catherine Whitmore, only daughter of the late Jonathan Whitmore, founder of Whitmore Industries, a multinational conglomerate worth $8.7 billion. The heiress who walked away from her inheritance at 23 to build her own identity, who met Derek at a coffee shop near Columbia where she had been grading papers and he had been pitching investors, who fell in love with a man who knew her as Josie the doctoral student, not Josephine the billionaire heiress. She had kept that secret for 5 years. Through the courtship, the modest wedding at City Hall, the tiny apartment in Queens, the carefully budgeted life, she wanted something real, something earned, someone who loved her, not her last name, not her bank account, not her connections, just her. How spectacularly that had backfired. "Josie," Derek said. His voice carried an edge of impatience now. "Did you hear me? Sign the papers." She looked up, and for the first time that evening, she smiled. It was a small thing, barely a curve of her lips, but it made Derek take an involuntary step backward. "No," she said simply. Amber laughed. The sound was brittle, sharp. It cut through the room like breaking glass. "Josie, do not make this harder than it needs to be. You cannot stop this. Derek has made up his mind." "Oh, I am not trying to stop anything," Josie replied. Her voice was steady now, strengthened by a truth she had buried for half a decade. "By all means, Derek, file for divorce. I will even save you the paperwork." She pulled out her phone, a modest iPhone, nothing ostentatious, nothing that would draw attention. She dialed a number she had not called in 3 years. It rang twice before a crisp British voice answered. "Josie, is everything all right?" "Hello, Hammond," she said, using the name of her family's longtime attorney. "I need you to file divorce papers, immediately, against Derek Whitmore, grounds, adultery and abandonment of pregnant spouse. I want it processed and filed before end of business tomorrow." There was a pause. Then Hammond's voice came back. "All business. Yes, tomorrow. I am aware it is Thanksgiving. Triple your usual fee if necessary." Derek's face had gone pale. His eyes were wide, confused, starting to panic. "What are you doing?" he said. His voice cracked. Josie held up one finger. The gesture was small but carried more authority than she had ever shown in their marriage. It silenced him completely. "Also, Hammond, please have my full financial disclosure prepared for the court. Yes, the complete portfolio, the trust, the holdings, everything. And one more thing." Her eyes locked on Derek's. She watched his face, watched the confusion, watched the first flicker of fear. "I want a full forensic audit of Whitmore Tech Solutions. I believe my husband may have been using marital assets inappropriately. I will send you the details within the hour." She hung up. The silence in the room was absolute. You could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. You could hear the traffic 17 floors below. You could hear Amber's sharp intake of breath. "Whitmore," Derek said. His voice was hollow. "Your last name is Whitmore. My company is Whitmore Tech Solutions because I thought it sounded strong. Corporate. There is no way. You are not. You cannot be." His eyes were moving fast now. That brilliant analytical mind that had built a moderately successful startup suddenly working against him, connecting dots he should have seen years ago. "No," he whispered. "No, there is no way you are related to that Whitmore. Jonathan Whitmore, Whitmore Industries. You are not." "Josephine Catherine Whitmore," she said calmly. She walked to the sideboard where her purse sat. From inside it, she pulled out a passport, one she had kept hidden for 5 years, one she never traveled with, one Derek had never seen. She opened it to the identification page and held it up so he could see. Daughter of Jonathan Whitmore, heiress to Whitmore Industries. Current net worth approximately $3.2 billion in personal assets, with an additional $5.5 billion in trust that matured on my 30th birthday, which was, if you recall, 6 months ago. Amber had gone sheet white. Her hand slipped off Derek's arm like it had been burned. Derek stumbled backward. His hip caught the edge of the table. The crystal glasses rattled. "You have been lying to me," he said. His voice was rising now, desperate. "This whole time, you have been lying." The laugh that escaped Josie was sharp, crystalline. It surprised even her. "I have been lying. That is rich. Coming from the man who just asked me for a divorce so he could be with my best friend. While I am 7 months pregnant with his child, she tucked the passport back into her purse with careful, deliberate movements. I did not lie, Derek. I simply did not advertise. I wanted to know you loved me for me, not for my family's money, not for the connections, not for what I could do for your career. Clearly, that experiment yielded disappointing results. Wait, Derek said. His whole demeanor was shifting now. Panic flooding in. Wait, let's not be hasty. We can talk about this. I made a mistake. Obviously, the stress of the pregnancy, of building the company. I was not thinking clearly. The company, Josie interrupted softly. She was walking now, slowly circling the table. Her pregnant belly made her movements deliberate, almost regal. The company that you named Whitmore Tech Solutions. Tell me, Derek, was that always the plan? Did you know who I was all along? No, he said quickly. Too quickly. I swear, I chose that name because it sounded strong, presidential. I had no idea you were connected. How could I have known? You never told me. Fascinating, Josie said. She stopped in front of Amber now, looked down at the woman who had been her best friend for over a decade. Amber was crying, real tears this time, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers. You built an entire technology company on the back of my family's reputation, Josie continued, never knowing I was connected to it. You asked me to give up my career, my doctorate, my independence, all while planning to leave me for my best friend. And now that you know the truth, suddenly you want to talk. She leaned down slightly, close enough that Amber flinched. Amber, she said gently, did you know? No, Amber whispered. I swear, Josie, I had no idea. I would never. Because if you did, Josie continued, this becomes a very different legal situation. Conspiracy to commit fraud, perhaps. Attempting to separate me from my assets through emotional manipulation. That carries serious consequences. Jesus, Josie, Amber said. Her voice was breaking. We are friends. I would never do that to you. Friends, Josie said. The word tasted like ash in her mouth. Friends do not sleep with their pregnant best friend's husband. But I suppose we have different definitions of that term. She straightened. Turned back to Derek. He looked like he might be sick. His expensive suit, the one he had bought last month without telling her the price, suddenly seemed cheap, ill-fitting. He seemed smaller somehow, diminished. Here is what is going to happen, Josie said. Her voice took on an executive tone, one she had learned at her father's knee, one she had suppressed for 5 years of playing the supportive wife. You will vacate this apartment tonight. It is mine, by the way. I purchased it before we married, kept it in a private trust. Your name was never on the deed. Derek's jaw went slack. His eyes darted around the apartment like he was seeing it for the first time. And in a way, he was. Second, Josie continued, you will not contact me except through my attorneys. Any attempt to claim parental rights will be met with a full investigation into your fitness as a father, including your multiple affairs. Yes, Derek. Plural. Did you think I did not know about the others? Amber was not your first, just the most brazen. Amber made a small choking sound. Her head whipped toward Derek. What? She said. What is she talking about? You said I was the only one. You said you loved me. Derek did not look at her. He was staring at Josie. His face had gone from pale to gray. Third, Josie said. She was almost enjoying this now, not from cruelty, but from the sheer relief of finally stopping the performance. Whitmore Tech Solutions. I did some research when you first launched. You used my grandmother's maiden name, Whitmore, thinking it was just a coincidence that it was also my last name. But several of your early investors were connections from my family's portfolio. Were they not? People who invested because they thought you were connected to the Whitmore family. That is fraud, Derek. Unintentional, perhaps, but actionable. You cannot, he started. I can, she said simply. And I will, unless you make this very, very easy for me. You will sign away all parental rights. You will accept whatever settlement my lawyers offer, which will be far less than you hoped, but far more than you deserve. And you will keep my identity private. If one word of this leaks to the press, I will bury you and your company. So deep you will need archaeological equipment to find daylight. She walked to the coat closet, pulled out her black wool coat, the one she had bought at a thrift store 3 years ago because Derek said they needed to save money. She put it on slowly, buttoned it with steady hands. "Josie, please," Derek said. He stumbled forward. His hand reached out but did not quite touch her. "The baby. You cannot keep me from my own child." She turned, and for the first time, real emotion cracked through her composure. Tears glimmered in her eyes, but her voice remained steady. "You just asked me for a divorce on Thanksgiving, in front of my best friend who you have been sleeping with. While I am 7 months pregnant, you have already chosen to keep yourself from your child, Derek. I am simply making it official." "Where are you going?" Amber asked. Her voice was small, childlike. "Somewhere you will never find me," Josie replied. "Somewhere I should have gone the moment I realized I was trying to be smaller than I am, to make small people feel comfortable." She picked up her purse, walked to the door. Her hand was on the knob when she paused, looked back one more time. "Oh, and Amber, that bracelet you were wearing. The Cartier love bracelet. I noticed Derek gave you the same one he gave me for our anniversary. He bought them both with the credit card linked to my trust account, the one I set up for household expenses. You are literally wearing my money on your wrist. Enjoy it. It is the last expensive thing either of you will get from me." The door closed behind her with a quiet click. The sound was impossibly loud in the devastated silence she left behind. The November air bit sharp and clean when Josie emerged onto the Upper East Side street. Her building's doorman, Marcus, looked up from his post. His eyes widened slightly when he saw her coat, her purse, the look on her face. "Miss Whitmore," he said. Not Mrs. he had always known. "Should I call your car?" "Yes, please, Marcus," she said. Her voice was steady, but he could see her hands trembling. Within 90 seconds, a sleek black Mercedes pulled up to the curb. The driver, a man in his 50s with silver hair and kind eyes, stepped out and opened the rear door. "Ms. Whitmore," he said. His voice was warm, familiar. "Where to?" "The peninsula, Paolo," she said. "I need somewhere quiet to think." Paolo had been her family's driver for 20 years. When she walked away from the Whitmore name, she kept him on permanent retainer but never once used him in front of Derek, never once let her old life touch her new one. Until tonight, as the car pulled away from the curb, Josie looked back once, up at the 17th floor windows glowing warm against the darkness. Somewhere up there, Derek and Amber were probably in full panic mode, scrambling to understand how completely their world had just inverted, how the woman they thought they were discarding was actually the only thing of value either of them had ever touched. She felt no triumph, no satisfaction, just a hollow ache, and underneath it, the strange, disorienting lightness of freedom. Her phone buzzed. "Hammond, papers will be filed first thing tomorrow morning," he said without preamble. "I have also taken the liberty of arranging for a security detail. Given the circumstances, they will be discreet but present. And Ms. Whitmore, if I may speak frankly." "Please do," she said. "Your father would be proud of how you handled this evening. Not every woman would have the spine to walk away from manipulation with such grace." The tears came then, silent and hot, streaming down her face in the darkness of the car. The city lights blurred into watercolor streaks. "Thank you, Hammond," she whispered. After she hung up, Josie placed both hands on her belly, felt the strong, steady movements of her daughter inside, the baby who would never know her father, but would never want for anything else. "Just us now," she murmured. "And I promise you, sweetheart, you will never have to make yourself small for anyone. You are a Whitmore. That means you are strong enough to be gentle, wealthy enough to be generous, and powerful enough to be kind. Your father may have walked away, but you will never want for anything. Not money, not love, not truth." The baby kicked in response, strong and sure, like she understood. By the time the car pulled up to the Peninsula Hotel, Josie had wiped her face clean. The doorman helped her out. His eyes widened slightly as he recognized her, not as Derek's wife, but as Josephine Whitmore, the reclusive heiress whose photo occasionally graced the business sections of newspapers, usually in the background of charity galas, always declining interviews. "Miss Whitmore," he said respectfully. "Welcome back." "Thank you, Robert," she replied, and meant it. Inside, the lobby glowed warm and golden. Soft piano music drifted from the bar, the scent of jasmine and expensive cologne. The manager himself came to greet her, a tall man in an impeccable suit. "Ms. Whitmore, we have the ambassador suite ready for you." As requested. She had not requested anything. Hammond had, already moving pieces on her behalf, anticipating her needs before she knew them herself. "Thank you," she said. In the suite, a sprawling 2-bedroom with Central Park views, she finally allowed herself to collapse onto the silk sofa. The exhaustion of the evening crashed over her like a wave. She sat there for a long time, just breathing, just existing, just trying to process that her marriage was over, that the man she loved had chosen her best friend, that she had just revealed a secret she had protected for 5 years. But underneath the exhaustion, something else stirred, something that felt almost like relief. For 5 years, she had been playing a role, the struggling academic, the supportive wife, the woman who needed her husband's mediocre tech company to succeed because she had no resources of her own. She had been so determined to prove she could make it without her family's wealth that she had forgotten who she actually was. Now, sitting alone in a $1,000 a night hotel suite, pregnant and newly separated, Josephine Whitmore remembered. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through her contacts, found a name she had not called in years, pressed dial. "Roxanne Kaufman," answered a brisk female voice. "Roxanne, it's Josie Whitmore. I need the best divorce attorney in New York, someone who specializes in high-net-worth cases and has absolutely no mercy." There was a beat of silence. Then Roxanne's tone shifted from professional to warm. They had been roommates at Columbia before Josie dropped out of her doctoral program to play house. "Josie, oh my God. I heard you got married. Some tech guy. What happened?" "He chose my best friend," Josie said. Her voice was flat, factual. "Announced it at Thanksgiving dinner, while I am 7 months pregnant." The silence on the other end was deadly. "I will represent you myself," Roxanne said. Her voice took on an edge that could cut glass. "And when I am done, he will be lucky if I leave him with his shoelaces." "Does he know about the money?" Josie clarified. "He does now." "Perfect," Roxanne said. "Meet me tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., my office. We are going to destroy him so thoroughly they will teach this case in law schools as a cautionary tale." Josie smiled, real and fierce. "Thank you," she said. "Do not thank me yet," Roxanne replied. "Just promise me one thing." "What?" "After this is over, you finally stop hiding. The world needs more women who are not afraid to take up space. Your daughter needs to see her mother own her power, not apologize for it." After they hung up, Josie walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. The city sprawled beneath her, glittering and vast, full of possibility, and somewhere out there, Derek was waking up to the magnitude of his mistake. But before we continue, I want you to pause for a second. Drop a comment right now and tell me where you are watching from. Or just say, "I am with you, Mr. Hearthline," because this story is about to get even more intense, and I want to know you are still here with me. Now, to understand how Josephine Whitmore ended up in that apartment on Thanksgiving night, we need to go back to before Derek, before the secret, before she decided to walk away from billions to find something real. Because Josie's story does not start with betrayal, it starts with loss. 29 years ago, Josephine Catherine Whitmore was born into a world most people only see in movies. The Whitmore family estate in Connecticut sprawled across 42 acres of manicured lawns and old-growth forests. The main house had 47 rooms, a staff of 16, a 10-car garage, an Olympic-size pool, a private tennis court, stables, everything a little girl could want, except the one thing she needed most. Her mother, Catherine Whitmore, died in childbirth. Complications, the doctors said, could not have been predicted. So Josie grew up in that massive house with her father, Jonathan Whitmore, a man who built a multinational empire but could not figure out how to braid his daughter's hair, who could negotiate billion-dollar mergers but forgot every single parent-teacher conference, who loved her desperately but showed it by buying her things instead of spending time. Picture a little girl in a mansion with 47 rooms, eating dinner alone at a table meant for 12, the staff hovering nearby but never sitting down, never being family, just employees doing a job. Picture that same girl on her 10th birthday, a party with 200 guests. Children bust in from her private school, a circus, a petting zoo, a 12-tier cake, and her father missing the whole thing because of an emergency meeting in Singapore. She learned early that money could buy everything except presence, except genuine connection, except the certainty that someone loved you for you and not for what you represented. When Josie turned 16, her father sat her down in his study, a room lined floor to ceiling with first edition books he never read. He poured himself a scotch, poured her a small glass of champagne, told her it was time she understood the family business. "You are going to inherit all of this someday," he said. His voice was tired. He was only 52, but looked 70. The stress of running Whitmore Industries was eating him alive. "I need you to be ready." So, she learned. Balance sheets, profit margins, hostile takeovers, quarterly earnings. She sat in on board meetings during summer breaks, watched her father command rooms full of men twice his age, saw the way people looked at him, not with love, with fear, with greed, with calculation, and she decided she did not want that life. Not yet, maybe not ever. When she graduated from Andover at 17, top of her class, her father assumed she would go to Wharton, get an MBA, join the family business. Instead, she chose Boston College, a good school, but not a feeder for Wall Street. She chose to study literature, Renaissance poetry, things that had nothing to do with money. Her father was furious, then resigned, then, eventually, proud. In his own way. "You are more like your mother than I realized," he told her. She did not care what people expected either. Those 4 years at Boston College were the happiest of Josie's life. She lived in the dorms, had a roommate who did not know about her family, ate ramen noodles, studied until 3 a.m. in the library, went to parties in basements with cheap beer and loud music, made friends who liked her because she was funny and kind, not because her last name opened doors. That is where she met Amber Reeves. First day of freshman year, they were assigned to the same dorm room. Amber was from a middle-class family in Ohio. Her father was a dentist. Her mother taught elementary school. She was studying marketing, wanted to work in advertising, thought Boston was the most exciting place in the world. They became inseparable, studied together, went to classes together, spent holidays together when Josie claimed she was too busy to fly home, which was true, but also an excuse. The mansion in Connecticut felt like a mausoleum. The hotel suite her father kept in Manhattan felt sterile. Boston felt like home. Junior year, Josie brought Amber home for Thanksgiving. It was the first time she had ever brought a friend to the estate. Amber's eyes went wide when they drove through the gates, past the fountain, up the curved driveway to the main house. "Josie," she whispered, "you said your family was comfortable. This is not comfortable. This is insane." Josie laughed. "It is just a house." But it was not just a house. And that weekend, she saw Amber change, saw the way her friend looked at the art on the walls, the cars in the garage, the staff who appeared and disappeared like ghosts, saw something shift behind Amber's eyes, something Josie recognized from 1,000 interactions with people who discovered who her family was. Hunger. After that weekend, Amber started asking questions about Josie's father, about the company, about what Josie would inherit someday. The questions were casual, friendly, but they felt different. They felt like appraisals. Josie started pulling back, making excuses, spending more time alone. By senior year, their friendship had cooled, not ended, but changed. Josie graduated with honors, got accepted to Columbia for a doctorate in comparative literature. Amber moved to New York for an entry-level marketing job. They saw each other occasionally, drinks in the Village, brunch in Soho, but the closeness was gone. Then, 3 months into her doctoral program, Josie got the call. Her father had collapsed during a board meeting, massive heart attack. He was dead before the ambulance arrived. He was 54 years old. The funeral was held at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Over 2,000 people attended, business leaders, politicians, celebrities, people who had never met Jonathan Whitmore but wanted to be seen mourning him. Josie sat in the front pew in a black dress that cost more than most people's cars, watching strangers cry over a man they did not know, wondering how many of them were already calculating how his death would affect their portfolios. After the funeral, the will reading. Josie inherited everything: the estate, The company shares, the investment portfolio, the trust fund that would mature when she turned 30. $8.7 billion, give or take a few million depending on market fluctuations. She was 23 years old, and she had never felt more alone in her life. The media went insane. Photos of her leaving the lawyer's office, headlines screaming, "Billionaire heiress, America's richest young woman, the Whitmore fortune." Reporters camped outside her apartment, outside Columbia, following her to classes, to the library, to the bodega where she bought coffee. Her life became a circus. Every man who asked her out was suspect. Every friend who called felt like they had an agenda. Every conversation felt like a negotiation. She could not tell who wanted her and who wanted her money. So she stopped trying. 6 months after her father's death, Josephine Whitmore made a decision. She would walk away. Not from the money entirely. That was hers, her inheritance, her father's legacy, but from the name, from the visibility, from the performance of being a Whitmore. She met with Hammond, the family attorney, a man who had known her since she was born, who had loved her father like a brother. "I want to disappear," she told him. "Legally, I will still be Josephine Whitmore, but publicly, I want to be nobody. Can you make that happen?" Hammond studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Your father did the same thing once," he said. "When he was young, before the company took off, he told me he needed to know what it felt like to succeed on his own. Without his father's name, I think he would understand what you were trying to do." So Hammond made it happen. Quietly, carefully, the trust was restructured. Hidden behind layers of shell companies and legal entities, Josie's name was scrubbed from public records. Her social media accounts deleted. Her Columbia enrollment listed under J.C. Whitmore. Easy to overlook, easy to ignore. She moved to a tiny studio apartment in Queens, paid cash for 6 months' rent up front, furnished it from thrift stores and IKEA, got a part-time job grading papers for undergrad literature courses, rode the subway, bought groceries at Trader Joe's, lived on a budget she set for herself, $2,000 a month. The same as any other doctoral student, and for the first time since her father died, she could breathe. She was still attending classes at Columbia, still working toward her doctorate, still Josie, but without the weight of the Whitmore name crushing her, without people looking at her and seeing dollar signs. That is when she met Derek. It was October, a cool afternoon with leaves falling in Morningside Park. Josie was sitting in a coffee shop near campus, grading a stack of freshman essays on Shakespeare's sonnets, drinking a $4 latte she had actually budgeted for, feeling normal. Derek Whitmore walked in. Tall, handsome in that generic way. Brown hair, blue eyes, good suit, but not too expensive. He was on his phone, talking loudly about user acquisition rates and venture capital. He ordered an espresso, sat down at the table next to hers, kept talking, kept gesturing, kept using words like disruption and scalability. Josie tried to ignore him, but he was loud, and the coffee shop was small. After 10 minutes of listening to his pitch, she could not help herself. "Excuse me," she said. "I am sorry to interrupt, but if you are trying to pitch investors, you should probably lead with the problem you are solving, not the technology. People invest in solutions, not features." Derek stopped mid-sentence, looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Then he smiled. It was a good smile, warm and a little embarrassed. "You are absolutely right," he said. "Thank you. Are you in tech?" "No," she said. "Literature, but my father was in business. I picked up a few things." He laughed, hung up his phone, asked if he could sit with her. She said yes, and just like that, they were talking. Not about money, not about family, not about who they were, just two people in a coffee shop on a Tuesday afternoon. He told her about his startup, Whitmore Tech Solutions, a software platform for small businesses. She did not react to the name, did not tell him it was her grandmother's maiden name, did not tell him anything except that it sounded promising. He asked what she was working on. She told him about her dissertation, about how Renaissance love poetry was actually radical feminist literature disguised as romance. He listened, really listened, asked smart questions, seemed genuinely interested. When they both had to leave, he asked for her number. She gave it to him. He texted her that night. They got dinner 2 days later, and just like that, Josephine Whitmore fell in love. Not because Derek was special. Looking back, she could see that now. But because he did not know who she was. He saw Josie the grad student, Josie who rode the subway, Josie who split appetizers to save money, Josie who was normal. For 6 months, they dated. Movies in cheap theaters, walks in Central Park, dinner at hole-in-the-wall restaurants in Brooklyn. He talked about his dreams, about building something meaningful, about wanting to be more than just another tech bro chasing money. She talked about teaching, about maybe writing a book someday, about wanting a simple life. He never asked about her family, never pushed when she was vague about her childhood, never seemed to care that she lived in Queens and took the subway and bought her clothes at H&M. He liked her. Just her, or so she thought. Looking back now, Josie could see the signs she missed. The way Derek always suggested she pay for things, not because he was cheap, but because he was testing her, seeing how little money she actually had. The way he talked about his company, about the investors he was courting, about the Whitmore name giving him credibility, how he joked that it was fate they had the same last name. She thought it was coincidence, serendipity. She did not realize he was building a brand on the back of her family's reputation, using a name that opened doors, that made investors take meetings, that implied connections he did not have. But she did not see it then. She only saw a man who loved her for her, who proposed after a year of dating with a modest ring he saved up for, who cried when she said yes, who wanted a small wedding, who seemed to want the same simple life she did. They got married at City Hall on a rainy Tuesday in March, just them and 2 witnesses pulled from the street. Josie wore a white dress from Anthropology. Derek wore the same suit he wore to investor meetings. Afterward, they got pizza in Little Italy and walked across the Brooklyn Bridge holding hands. It was perfect, and it was real. Or so Josie thought. She still had not told him about the money, about who her family was, about the billions sitting in trust waiting for her 30th birthday. She told herself she would, eventually, when the time was right. But the time never felt right. And then she got pregnant, and Derek asked her to quit her doctoral program. And she said yes, because that is what you do when you love someone. You compromise, you sacrifice, you make yourself smaller so they can feel bigger. That is the thing about hiding who you are. Eventually, you forget. You play the role so long it becomes the truth. Josie the grad student became Josie the supportive wife, who gave up her dreams, who made his dreams the priority, who believed that was what love looked like. Until Thanksgiving night, when Derek slid those divorce papers across the table, with Amber sitting beside him, and Josie finally remembered who she actually was. So now you know how we got here. How a billionaire heiress ended up married to a man who did not know her real identity. How she convinced herself that love meant making yourself small. How she learned, in the most painful way possible, that the right person will never ask you to be less than you are. But this story is far from over, because Derek Whitmore is about to learn a lesson that will cost him everything. And Amber Reeves is about to discover that betraying a Whitmore has consequences she cannot even imagine. Stay with me, because what happens next will restore your faith in justice. The morning after Thanksgiving, Manhattan woke up to freezing rain that glazed the streets like glass. Josephine Whitmore barely slept. The ambassador suite at the peninsula was luxurious. Silk sheets, down pillows, a view of Central Park turning white with early winter. But luxury could not quiet her mind. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Derek's face, the shock, the panic, the realization of what he had just lost. She woke at 6 a.m., showered, dressed in a simple black dress that somehow looked more expensive than anything she had worn in 5 years, because it was. She had called the concierge last night, asked them to send up clothes from the boutique downstairs. Her old wardrobe was still in storage, designer pieces she had not touched since her father's funeral, but she needed armor today. And armor, she had learned long ago, sometimes looks like Chanel. At 8 a.m., there was a knock at her door. She opened it to find Hammond standing there. Crisp suit, leather briefcase, the same man who had been her father's attorney for 30 years. He looked at her for a long moment, then smiled. "You look like yourself again," he said. "I feel like myself again," she replied. "And it is terrifying." They sat in the suite's living room. Hammond spread documents across the coffee table. divorce petition, financial disclosures, custody arrangements, a restraining order application, everything moving faster than Josie thought possible. I filed the petition at 8:01 this morning, Hammond said. The courthouse opened at 8. We were first in line. Derek will be served by noon today. I have also prepared your full financial disclosure as the court requires. He slid a thick folder toward her. This is what he is going to see. Everything. The trust, the holdings, the real estate, the investment portfolio, your actual net worth as of this morning. Josie opened the folder, stared at the number on the first page. $3.4 billion. It had gone up $200 million since her birthday 6 months ago. Good investments, strong market performance, money making money while she graded papers and made turkey dinners for a man who was planning to leave her. He is going to lose his mind, she said quietly. Good, Hammond replied. Let him. The angrier he gets, the more mistakes he will make. And we will document every single one. There was another knock. Room service. But when Josie opened the door, it was not food. It was a woman. Mid-40s. Impeccably dressed. Blonde hair pulled back in a severe bun. Eyes that could cut glass. Josephine Whitmore, she said. It was not a question. I am Grace Mitchell. Roxanne asked me to join your legal team. I specialize in high-conflict divorces, specifically in destroying men who underestimate their wives. She walked in without being invited, set her own briefcase on the table, looked at Hammond. You filed the petition, she said. Good. I filed the restraining order. Emergency hearing scheduled for Monday morning. I cited abandonment of pregnant spouse, adultery, and potential financial fraud. The judge granted a temporary order. Derek cannot contact you, cannot come within 300 feet of you, cannot access any joint accounts. As of 9 a.m. this morning, he is locked out. Josie sat down slowly. This was real. This was happening. 24 hours ago, she was setting a Thanksgiving table. Now she had 2 attorneys systematically dismantling her husband's life. Grace sat across from her, leaned forward. I need you to understand something, she said. Her voice was gentle but firm. Men like Derek do not lose gracefully. Right now, he is in shock. By tonight, he will be angry. By tomorrow, he will be desperate. Desperate men do dangerous things. That is why you have security outside your door. That is why you do not go anywhere alone. That is why you do not answer his calls or read his messages. Everything goes through us. Josie nodded. She felt numb, overwhelmed, like she was watching this happen to someone else. Do you have any questions? Hammond asked. Just one, Josie said. Her hand moved to her belly. The baby was kicking. Strong, steady movements that grounded her. Can he really take my daughter from me? Grace's expression hardened. No, she said flatly. Not a chance. You are financially stable, emotionally stable. You have family support. He is the one who abandoned his pregnant wife for her best friend. He is the one who committed adultery. He is the one facing fraud allegations. No judge in New York is giving him custody. At best, he gets supervised visitation. At worst, which is what we are aiming for, he gets nothing. At worst, Josie repeated. You mean he never sees her? I mean he signs away his parental rights in exchange for a lighter financial settlement, Grace said. We give him a choice. Walk away clean or fight and lose everything. Most men choose survival. Josie looked out the window. The park below was filling with people. Families, couples, children chasing pigeons. Normal lives. Lives she thought she had. Lives that turned out to be illusions. Do it, she said. Whatever you need to do. Protect my daughter. That is all I care about. Grace smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator who just got permission to hunt. Consider it done, she said. 3 hours later, across town in the apartment Josie had bought and Derek thought he owned, Derek Whitmore was having the worst day of his life. He had not slept, had not eaten, had spent the entire night on his laptop Googling Josephine Whitmore. Every search result was a knife in his chest. Whitmore heiress graduates from Andover. Photo of Josie at 17, looking young and uncomfortable in a designer dress at some gala. Josephine Whitmore mourns father at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Photo of her at the funeral, surrounded by dignitaries and celebrities, looking devastated and alone. Jonathan Whitmore's daughter inherits $8.7 billion fortune. Article from 5 years ago. Speculation about what the young heiress would do with the money. Interviews with financial analysts. Photos of the Connecticut estate. Whitmore Industries posts record profits under new board leadership. Mention of Josephine Whitmore as majority shareholder. Her name buried in the third paragraph, like she was trying to hide, which Derek now realized she was. His phone rang. He grabbed it. Unknown number. He answered anyway. "Derek Whitmore," said a professional voice. "This is Malcolm Chen with Parker & Associates. I'm calling to notify you that you are being served with divorce papers. You should receive the physical documents within the hour." The line went dead. Derek stared at his phone. She really did it. She really filed. Less than 24 hours after he asked for a divorce. Less than 12 hours after she revealed who she was. She moved faster than he thought possible. His apartment door buzzer rang. He walked to the intercom. A courier stood in the lobby holding a manila envelope. Derek buzzed him up, took the envelope, closed the door, opened it with shaking hands. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Josephine Catherine Whitmore versus Derek Allen Whitmore, Superior Court of New York. Filed November 24th. He scanned the document. Grounds for divorce: adultery, abandonment of pregnant spouse, emotional cruelty, fraud. He kept reading. Petitioner requests full physical and legal custody of minor child. Respondent to have no contact with petitioner or child. Petitioner requests forensic audit of Whitmore Tech Solutions for potential misuse of marital assets and fraudulent business practices. His hands started shaking. She was not just divorcing him. She was destroying him. The next page was worse. Financial disclosure. Petitioner's assets. And there in black and white was the number that made Derek's knees give out. He sat down hard on the floor, stared at the page. Total net worth: $3.4 billion. Billion. With a B. He had been married to one of the richest women in America, and he had asked her for a divorce. For Amber. Amber, who made $47,000 a year at a marketing firm. Amber, who had student loans and credit card debt and drove a 7-year-old Honda. His phone rang again. This time he recognized the number. His lawyer, the one who had drafted the divorce papers he tried to serve Josie last night. The papers still sitting on her dining room table, unsigned. "Derek," said his lawyer. His name was Brad. They played racquetball together. "We need to talk. I just got served," Derek said. His voice sounded hollow. "She filed first." "I know," Brad said. "I got a call from her attorney this morning. Hammond Pritchard. Do you know who that is?" "No. He is the Pritchard in Pritchard, Stone and Whitmore, the law firm that represents half the Fortune 500. Derek, your wife is not playing games. She has unlimited resources and the best legal team in the country. Those divorce papers you had me draw up are worthless now. We are on defense." "Defense," Derek repeated. Brad sighed. "How much is she worth?" he asked. According to the disclosure, $3.4 billion. The silence on the line was absolute. "Jesus Christ," Brad finally said. "Derek, what did you do?" "I did not know," Derek said. He was standing now, pacing, running his hands through his hair. "I swear to God I did not know. She never told me. She lived in Queens. She rode the subway. She shopped at thrift stores. How was I supposed to know?" "It does not matter," Brad said. "What matters is you served her divorce papers on Thanksgiving while she is 7 months pregnant. And she is Josephine Whitmore. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand the optics?" Derek closed his eyes. He understood. It looked like he was trying to abandon his pregnant wife and take her money, even though he did not know about the money, even though she hid it from him, even though this was not how it looked. "What do I do?" he asked. Brad was quiet for a moment. "Honestly," he said, "you grovel. You apologize. You try to settle this quietly before it becomes a media circus. Because if this goes public, Derek, you are done. Your company, your reputation, everything." After he hung up, Derek tried calling Josie. Straight to voicemail. He tried texting. Message failed. She had blocked him. He tried emailing. Auto reply. "Please direct all communication to my attorney Hammond Pritchard." He threw his phone across the room. It hit the wall and cracked. He did not care. He sat on the couch, the same couch where Josie used to curl up with her books, where she would read to him sometimes. Poetry he did not understand, but pretended to like because it made her happy. The apartment felt empty without her, which was insane, because he was the one who asked her to leave. He was the one who said he wanted Amber. Speaking of which, where was Amber? She had left last night right after Josie, said she needed time to think, had not answered his calls since. He tried her again now. It rang 4 times. Then she answered. "What?" she said. Her voice was cold. "Where are you?" Derek asked. "Home. My actual home. Not your wife's apartment that you pretended was yours. Amber, please, we need to talk about this." She laughed. It was not a nice sound. "Talk about what, Derek? About how you lied to me. About how you said Josie was just a grad student struggling to make ends meet. About how you conveniently forgot to mention she is a billionaire." "I did not know," he said. "Bull," Amber snapped. "You named your company Whitmore Tech Solutions. You used her family's name to get investors. You knew." "I did not," he insisted. "It was a coincidence. I thought Whitmore sounded strong, presidential. I did not know she was related to Jonathan Whitmore. She never told me." Amber was quiet. "Do you know what you have done?" she finally said. Her voice was shaking. "Josephine Whitmore is not just rich, she is connected. Her family has lawyers and private investigators and people who make problems disappear. And you humiliated her. You served her divorce papers at Thanksgiving dinner, in front of me, making me part of this." "You're part of this," Derek said. "We did this together." "No," Amber said. "You did this. I was stupid enough to believe you when you said you were leaving her anyway. That it did not matter. That we were in love. But this was never about love for you, was it, Derek? This was about control, about being the big man. And now you just lost the most valuable thing you will ever have." She hung up. Derek stared at his cracked phone. Everyone was turning on him. Everyone. "But before we continue, I need you to do something for me. If you are still watching, if this story is gripping you the way I think it is, hit that subscribe button right now. Because stories like this, stories about people discovering their worth and taking back their power, this is what we do here. And share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who has ever felt small. Someone who has ever been betrayed. Let's keep going. By Monday morning, the news had leaked. Not from Josie. Not from her legal team. But from somewhere. A paralegal maybe. A court clerk. Someone who saw the filing and recognized the name, Whitmore. Someone who made a phone call to a reporter they knew. The headline appeared in the New York Post at 7 a.m. Whitmore heiress files for divorce from husband who abandoned her on Thanksgiving. Photo of Josie from 5 years ago. Photo of Derek from his company website. The article was short, factual, but devastating. Sources close to the case confirmed that Josephine Whitmore, 30-year-old daughter of the late Jonathan Whitmore and heiress to the Whitmore Industries fortune, filed for divorce on Friday from Derek Whitmore, founder of Whitmore Tech Solutions. The filing cites adultery and abandonment. Mrs. Whitmore is 7 months pregnant. Mr. Whitmore could not be reached for comment. By noon, it was everywhere. Business Insider, TechCrunch, The Wall Street Journal, even TMZ picked it up. Billionaire heiress, pregnant, abandoned on Thanksgiving. It was perfect tabloid fodder. And Derek's name was attached to all of it. His phone started ringing off the hook. Investors, board members, his own mother. Everyone wanted to know if it was true. If he really left his pregnant billionaire wife for another woman. If he really did not know who she was. His company's stock, what little was publicly traded, dropped 11% in 4 hours. Partners started pulling out of deals. Clients started asking questions. His reputation, carefully built over 5 years, was crumbling in real time. And through it all, Josie stayed silent. No statements, no interviews, no photos. She had disappeared as completely as she had 5 years ago. But this time, Derek knew exactly where the power was. And it was not with him. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for Monday at 2 p.m. Grace had told Josie she did not need to attend. But Josie wanted to be there. Wanted to look Derek in the eye. Wanted him to see what he had lost. She arrived at the courthouse with Hammond and Grace flanking her like bodyguards. Security was waiting. Not court security, her security. 2 former Secret Service agents Hammond had hired. They walked her through a side entrance to avoid the cameras already gathering out front. The courtroom was small. Family court. Judge Patricia Okonkwo presiding. She was a black woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and zero tolerance for nonsense. She looked at the file, looked at Josie, looked at Derek sitting across the aisle with his lawyer Brad. "This is a petition for a permanent restraining order," Judge Okonkwo said. "Mrs. Whitmore, you are requesting that your husband have no contact with you or your unborn child. That is a significant request. What is your basis?" Grace stood. "Your Honor, my client is 7 months pregnant. On Thanksgiving Day, her husband served her with divorce papers in the presence of her best friend, with whom he has been having an affair. Mrs. Whitmore left the marital home, which she owns, and has not had contact with Mr. Whitmore since. However, he has made numerous attempts to contact her. Phone calls, text messages, emails, all of which she has not responded to. We believe he poses a risk to her safety and well-being, given the emotional distress he has caused during a high-risk pregnancy." Judge Okonkwo looked at Derek. "Mr. Whitmore, is this accurate?" Brad stood. "Your Honor, my client admits that the timing of the divorce request was poor, but he has only attempted to contact his wife to reconcile, to apologize. There is no threat here." Grace pulled out her phone, played a voicemail. Derek's voice filled the courtroom. "Josie, you cannot do this. You cannot just shut me out. I know I made a mistake, but this is insane. You are being unreasonable. We need to talk about this like adults." Another voicemail. "You are really going to keep my own child from me because of your hurt feelings. That is cruel, Josie. That is not who you are." Another. "I do not know what your lawyers are telling you, but you are making a huge mistake. You think you can just erase me from your life, from our daughter's life. This is not over." Judge Okonkwo's expression hardened. "Mr. Whitmore," she said, "you served your pregnant wife with divorce papers on Thanksgiving. She left, and your response is to call her unreasonable and cruel, to tell her this is not over in a tone that could reasonably be perceived as threatening." "Your Honor," Brad started. "I am granting the restraining order," Judge Okonkwo said. "Mr. Whitmore, you are to have no contact with Mrs. Whitmore. No calls, no texts, no emails, no third-party communication. You are to stay 300 feet away from her residence, her workplace, and any location she frequents. This order is effective immediately and will remain in place until the divorce is finalized, at which point custody arrangements will be determined. Do you understand?" Derek stood. His face was red. "This is ridiculous," he said. "She is my wife. That is my child. She is your wife who you asked for a divorce," Judge Okonkwo said sharply. "You do not get to abandon her and then claim ownership. Sit down, Mr. Whitmore." He sat, looked across the aisle at Josie. She met his eyes, did not look away, did not flinch, just stared at him with an expression he had never seen before. Calm, resolved, powerful, and in that moment, Derek understood. He had not just lost his wife. He had lost a war he did not know he was fighting. Outside the courthouse, the media was waiting. Cameras, microphones, reporters shouting questions. "Mrs. Whitmore, is it true your husband did not know about your fortune? Are you seeking full custody? Will there be a financial settlement?" Grace and Hammond surrounded her. The security team cleared a path to the waiting car. Josie kept her head down, did not answer, did not engage, just kept walking. It was not until she was safely in the back of the Mercedes that she finally broke down. Paolo drove while she cried. Quiet, shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep. Not grief anymore, not betrayal. Just release. The pressure of 5 years of pretending. 5 years of being small. 5 years of hiding. All of it pouring out. When they arrived back at the peninsula, Grace walked her up to the suite, sat with her while she cried. Did not try to fix it. Did not offer platitudes. Just sat. Sometimes that is what people need most. Presence. "You did good today," Grace finally said. "He saw you, really saw you, and he realized what he lost." "I do not want him to suffer," Josie said. Her voice was raw. "I just want him gone." "He will be," Grace said. "Trust me, men like Derek do not stay where they are not wanted. They move on. Find someone else to control, and you will rebuild. You will raise your daughter. You will be happy. I have seen this 1,000 times. The woman always comes out stronger. Josie wanted to believe her. But right now, 7 months pregnant and exhausted and alone, strength felt very far away. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Forensic accountants descended on Whitmore Tech Solutions. They found exactly what Josie suspected. Wire transfers to Harper Marketing LLC, Amber's company. Invoices for consulting services that never happened. Payments that looked like business expenses but were actually personal. Hotels, dinners, gifts. It was not technically fraud, but it was close enough. Close enough that Derek's board called an emergency meeting. Close enough that investors started asking questions. Close enough that Derek's carefully constructed empire started to crack. The board suspended him, pending investigation. His salary stopped. His company credit cards were canceled. His access to the office was revoked. Everything he built over 5 years was slipping through his fingers like water. And Amber, poor stupid Amber. She lost her job 3 days after the story broke. Her boss called her in, told her that the company could not afford to be associated with a scandal, that it was nothing personal, but she had to go. Effective immediately, she called Derek, crying. He did not answer. She called again. Voicemail. She finally showed up at the apartment. Buzzed. He did not let her in. She stood on the street yelling up at the windows until a neighbor threatened to call the police. That was when she realized. Derek never loved her. He loved the idea of her. The younger woman, the affair, the rebellion against his pregnant wife. But now that there were consequences, now that she was not fun anymore, he was done. She went home to her studio apartment in Astoria, sat on her IKEA couch, looked around at her life, and realized she had destroyed everything for nothing. Her best friend, her job, her reputation, all gone, for a man who would not even answer her calls. Meanwhile, Josie was preparing for the baby. Hammond had purchased a brownstone in Brooklyn Heights under one of her shell companies. 5 bedrooms, a garden, a quiet street with trees. She moved in 2 weeks before her due date, hired a decorator to turn one of the bedrooms into a nursery. Soft yellows and greens, a white crib, a rocking chair by the window. Everything ready. Roxanne came over the night before Josie's due date, brought Thai food and ice cream. They sat in the living room, ate straight from the containers, talked about everything except Derek. "You nervous?" Roxanne asked. "Terrified," Josie admitted. "I am about to be a single mother, alone, no family, no partner, just me." "You are not alone," Roxanne said firmly. "You have me. You have Grace. You have Hammond. You have an entire team of people who love you and will help you. And you have about $3 billion, which, while it does not replace love, does buy really good childcare." Josie laughed, a real laugh, the first in weeks. That night, she went into labor. Not the dramatic water breaking you see in movies, just steady contractions that woke her at 3 a.m. She called Roxanne, called her doctor, called Hammond, who called the car service. By 4 a.m., she was at Mount Sinai Hospital, in a private suite, with a team of the best obstetricians in New York. And at 2:17 p.m. on December 14th, Cecilia Jane Whitmore was born. 6 pounds, 8 ounces. Perfect, healthy, beautiful, with her mother's dark hair and her grandmother's eyes. The grandmother she would never meet, but whose name she carried. Josie held her daughter and cried, but these were not sad tears. These were tears of overwhelming love, of gratitude, of relief that this perfect little human was finally here, finally real. Roxanne stood in the corner, crying too. Grace showed up an hour later with flowers and a stuffed elephant. Hammond sent a card that made Josie laugh and cry at the same time. "You did it. Your father would be so proud." But there was one person notably absent. Derek, who did not know his daughter was born, who would not know unless someone told him, and no one did. 3 days later, Josie took Cecilia home to the Brooklyn brownstone, set her in the crib, watched her sleep, and whispered all the promises mothers make. "I will protect you. I will love you. I will never let anyone make you feel small." Outside, snow began to fall. The first real snow of winter, covering the city in white, making everything clean and new. and for the first time in months, Josephine Whitmore felt something close to peace. Now, I want to pause here for a second, because I know some of you are wondering about Derek, about whether he ever met his daughter, about what happened to him, and we will get there. But first, I need you to comment below. Tell me where you are watching from. Tell me if you have ever had to rebuild after betrayal. Or just say, I am with you, Mr. Hearthline, because your engagement helps this story reach people who need it. Let's continue. 6 months passed. Cecilia grew, learned to smile, to laugh, to grab at toys. Josie fell into the rhythm of motherhood, exhausting and beautiful and all-consuming. She had help, a nanny 3 days a week, Roxanne stopping by with dinner, Grace checking in to make sure she was okay. But mostly, it was just Josie and Cecilia, learning each other, building their life. The divorce was finalized in April. Derek did not fight, could not fight. The evidence was overwhelming. The adultery, the fraud, the abandonment. His lawyer advised him to take the settlement and walk away. So he did. He got nothing. No alimony. Obviously, no share of Josie's assets. No custody. No visitation. In exchange, Josie agreed not to pursue criminal charges for the financial fraud, not because she was being kind, but because dragging it out would keep her tied to him. And she wanted to be free. Derek signed the papers in his lawyer's office. Alone, Amber was long gone, moved back to Ohio, working at her father's dental practice. Her marketing career over, her New York dreams dead. Derek never spoke to her again, just like he never spoke to Josie. Whitmore Tech Solutions was sold, quietly, to a larger firm that wanted the client list and the software. Derek walked away with enough money to survive but not enough to thrive. He moved to New Jersey, got a small apartment, started doing freelance consulting. His name was Poison in Manhattan. But in Newark, no one knew him. No one cared. He thought about his daughter sometimes, wondered what she looked like, if she had his eyes, if she would ever know his name. But he never reached out, never tried to see her, because deep down, he knew. He had made his choice, and choices have consequences. Meanwhile, Josie was building something new, not just a life, a legacy. She called it the Catherine Foundation, named after her mother and her grandmother, women she never knew but whose strength she carried. The foundation's mission was simple: help women leave toxic relationships, provide legal support, financial assistance, housing, counseling, everything Josie had access to, but most women did not. She seeded it with $500 million, hired a staff of 20, opened offices in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. The press conference was held on a warm day in May. Josie stood at a podium in a light blue dress, Cecilia sleeping in a carrier against her chest, cameras flashing, reporters taking notes, and she told her story. Not all of it, but enough. I was lucky, she said. When my marriage ended, I had resources. I had lawyers. I had options. Most women do not. They stay in bad situations because they cannot afford to leave, because they are afraid, because they think they have no choice. The Catherine Foundation exists to give them that choice. The questions came fast. Mrs. Whitmore, is this in response to your own divorce? Will you be working with the foundation full-time? What do you say to your ex-husband if he is watching? Josie smiled at that last one. I would say thank you, she said. Thank you for showing me who you were before I wasted any more of my life. Thank you for freeing me to become who I was always meant to be. And thank you for giving me the greatest gift, my daughter, who will grow up knowing she never has to make herself small for anyone. The applause was thunderous. The story went viral, not as tabloid fodder this time, but as inspiration. The billionaire heiress who turned her pain into purpose, who used her divorce to help thousands of other women, who proved that the best revenge is not destruction. It is transformation. Within a month, the Catherine Foundation had helped its first 100 women. Within 6 months, 500. Within a year, over 3,000. Women escaping abuse. Women rebuilding lives. Women discovering that they were stronger than what broke them. And Josie. Josie was happy. Not the desperate, grasping happiness of someone trying to fill a void, but the quiet, deep happiness of someone who finally knew herself, who was finally living authentically, who had stopped pretending, Cecilia's first birthday party was held in the garden of the brownstone. 20 people, all women: Roxanne, Grace, Hammond's wife, the foundation staff, other single mothers Josie had befriended. No family, because Josie was building her own definition of family, and it looked nothing like the one she grew up in. They ate cake, sang songs, watched Cecilia smash her face into frosting, laughed until their stomachs hurt, and Josie looked around at these women, these warriors, and felt more loved than she ever had in her marriage. That night, after everyone left and Cecilia was asleep, Josie stood in the garden. The city lights glowed orange against the dark sky. She thought about Derek, wondered briefly where he was, what he was doing, if he ever thought about them, but the thoughts passed quickly, like clouds, there and then gone. He was not part of her story anymore, just a chapter that taught her something important, that you cannot love someone into being who you need them to be, that hiding yourself to make someone else comfortable is a slow death, that the right person will never ask you to be less. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. For a second her heart jumped, thinking it might be Derek, but it was not. Mrs. Whitmore, this is Angela Torres. The Catherine Foundation helped me leave my husband 3 months ago. I just wanted you to know I got a job today, a real one, with benefits. I start Monday. I could not have done this without you. Thank you for seeing me when I could not see myself. Josie read the message 3 times, then saved it in a folder with hundreds of others just like it. These were her real legacy, not money, not buildings with her name on them. But lives changed, women saved, children protected. She replied, Angela, you saved yourself. I just gave you the tools. I am so proud of you. And she meant it. 2 years after Thanksgiving, Josie was having coffee at her favorite cafe in Brooklyn. Cecilia was at music class with the nanny. Josie had an hour to herself, a rare luxury. She was reading the Times, sipping a latte, enjoying the anonymity of a Tuesday morning. The door opened. A man walked in, tall, familiar. For a second, Josie's heart stopped. Derek, but no, just someone who looked like him from behind. The man turned, younger, different face. Not him. She exhaled, realized her hands were shaking. 2 years and her body still remembered the betrayal, still carried it. But then the door opened again, and this time it actually was him, Derek Whitmore, older, thinner, wearing a cheap suit and carrying a laptop bag. He did not see her at first, walked to the counter, ordered a black coffee, paid with crumpled bills. Josie watched him, this man she had loved, this man who had destroyed her and inadvertently saved her. He looked tired, defeated, like the world had been harder than he expected. He turned. Their eyes met. He froze. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The cafe kept buzzing around them. People talking, espresso machine hissing, jazz music playing. But between them, silence. Josie, he finally said. His voice was rough, uncertain. Derek, she replied. Calm, neutral. He walked over slowly, like approaching a wild animal. You look good, he said. Really good, thank you. Can I sit? She almost said no, but curiosity won. Sure. He sat across from her, set his coffee down with shaking hands, looked at her like he was seeing a ghost. I saw the article about your foundation, he said. What you are doing. It is amazing. Thank you. I wanted to reach out, to congratulate you, but I did not think you would want to hear from me. I would not have, she said honestly. He nodded, accepted that. How is she? He asked quietly. Our daughter. Her name is Cecilia, Josie said, and she is perfect. Happy, healthy, smart. She just started walking, says a few words. Derek's eyes filled with tears. Does she look like me? He asked. She looks like herself, Josie said gently. And before you ask, no, you cannot see her. You signed away your rights. That was your choice. I know, he whispered. I know. I think about her, about what I lost, about how stupid I was. Josie took a sip of her coffee. Let him sit with that. I am sorry, Derek said. I know it does not matter now. I know it does not change anything, but I am sorry for all of it, for Amber, for the divorce, for not seeing you, really seeing you. You tried to love me, and I was too stupid to understand what I had." Josie looked at him, really looked, and felt nothing, not anger, not pain, not even pity, just a vague sadness for the man who could have had everything and chose nothing. "I forgive you," she said, "not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to carry you anymore. You made your choices. I made mine, and I am happy now, genuinely happy. Can you say the same?" Derek looked down at his cheap coffee, his worn suit, his empty ring finger. "No," he admitted, "I cannot." "Then I hope you find it," Josie said. She stood, gathered her things. "I hope you figure out what you are looking for. But it is not me, and it is not Cecilia. That door is closed." "Josie," he said, "one more thing." She paused. "Were you ever going to tell me," he asked, "about the money?" She thought about that. Really thought. "Yes," she finally said. "I was going to tell you on our 5th anniversary. I had it all planned. I was going to take you to the estate in Connecticut, show you where I grew up, introduce you to that part of my life. But you asked for a divorce 3 months before our anniversary, so I guess we will never know what would have happened." Derek's face crumpled. "I ruined everything," he said. "No," Josie said gently. "You revealed everything, and I am grateful, because now I know what real love looks like, and it is not you." She walked out of the cafe, into the bright November morning. The air was crisp. The trees were turning gold, and somewhere across Brooklyn, her daughter was learning to play tambourine. Josie smiled, pulled out her phone, called the nanny. "I am on my way," she said. "Tell Cecilia Mama will be there in 10 minutes, and maybe we will get ice cream after. It is a beautiful day." She hung up, started walking, and did not look back, not once, because the past, she had learned, is only heavy if you keep carrying it. And Josephine Whitmore was done carrying things that did not serve her. So here is the truth that Josie learned, that I hope you learn too. Your value does not decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. Not ever, not even a little bit. The right people, the ones who deserve you, will never ask you to shrink. They will never make you hide. They will love you at full volume, full brightness, full power. And anyone who asks for less does not deserve access to you. Derek thought he was trading up when he chose Amber. Younger, simpler, more manageable. What he did not realize is that he was trading a diamond for glass. And by the time he figured it out, the diamond was gone, cut into something even more valuable, something he could never afford. That is the thing about betrayal. It does not break the strong ones. It reveals them. It burns away everything false, everything pretend, everything small, and what is left is pure, true, unshakable. Josie spent 5 years hiding, making herself less, playing a role. And when Derek destroyed that role, he did not destroy her. He freed her, forced her to stop pretending, to step into the fullness of who she actually was. A Whitmore, a mother, a philanthropist, a woman who would help thousands of other women find their own strength. The best revenge, Josie's grandmother used to say, is not destruction. It is joy. It is building a life so beautiful, so authentic, so full that you forget the person who hurt you even exists. And that is exactly what Josie did. So, if you are watching this, and you have ever been betrayed, ever been underestimated, ever been told you are too much or not enough, I want you to hear this. They were wrong. You are exactly right, exactly enough, exactly who you are supposed to be. And the person who could not see that just disqualified themselves from your future. Their loss, your gain. Now, I need you to do something for me. If this story moved you, if it changed something in how you see yourself, I need you to like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Mr. Hearthline Stories because we are just getting started. Every week, we bring you narratives that do not just entertain, they transform. They remind you who you are. They show you what is possible when you stop making yourself small. And drop a comment. Tell me your story. Tell me about a time you walked away from something that was hurting you. Tell me about when you chose yourself. Or just say, I am with you, Mr. Hearthline. Because I read every single comment, and your story matters. Josephine Whitmore's story teaches us that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing that could have happened. That betrayal, as much as it hurts, is information. It shows you who people really are. And once you have that information, you get to decide what to do with it. Josie could have been bitter, could have spent her billions destroying Derek, ruining him completely, and she would have been justified. But she chose something better. She chose to build, to heal, to help, to transform her pain into purpose and her betrayal into a foundation that would save thousands of lives. That is power, not the power to hurt back, but the power to rise so high that revenge becomes irrelevant. The power to become so genuinely happy that you forget to hate the person who hurt you. The power to look your betrayer in the eye 2 years later and feel nothing but mild sadness for what they lost. Derek will spend the rest of his life knowing he had a billionaire heiress who loved him, who gave up everything to be with him, who believed in him, and he threw her away for an affair that lasted 3 weeks. He will know he has a daughter he will never meet, a family he will never be part of, a life he could have had but destroyed with his own hands. That is his consequence, not imposed by Josie, but chosen by him. And Josie, she gets to wake up every morning in a home she loves, with a daughter she adores, doing work that matters, surrounded by people who see her, all of her, and love her not despite her power, but because of it. She gets to be fully herself. No hiding, no pretending, no making herself smaller to fit into someone else's limited imagination. That is the happy ending. Not a man, not a reconciliation, not revenge, but peace, authenticity, purpose, joy. So as we close this story, I want to leave you with one final thought. You are not what was done to you. You are what you choose to do with what was done to you. Josie was betrayed, abandoned, humiliated, but she did not let that define her. She let it refine her. She used it as fuel to become more herself than she had ever been. And you can too. Whatever you are carrying, whatever hurt you are holding, whatever betrayal is weighing you down, you can set it down. You can choose to rise. You can decide that your story does not end with heartbreak. It begins there. 3 years after Thanksgiving, Josie received an invitation. Her 10-year college reunion. Boston College. She almost did not go, but Roxanne convinced her. Cecilia was 3 now, old enough to travel. So they made a weekend of it, stayed at a nice hotel, walked around campus, showed Cecilia where Mommy went to school. At the reunion, people stared. Everyone had heard the story, the divorce, the foundation, the billions. They approached carefully, congratulated her, told her how inspiring she was, how brave. She smiled, thanked them, but kept moving. And then she saw her, Amber, standing alone near the bar, looking older, tired. She was wearing a Target dress and holding a plastic cup of wine. When she saw Josie, she froze, looked like she might run. But Josie walked over, stood in front of her, looked at this woman who had been her best friend, her maid of honor, her betrayer. "Hello, Amber," Josie said. Amber's eyes filled with tears. "Josie, I am so sorry. I have wanted to tell you that for 3 years. I was stupid. I was selfish. I ruined everything." "Yes," Josie said simply. "You did. Can you ever forgive me?" Amber whispered. Josie thought about that. Really thought. "I already have," she said. "Not for you, but for me, because holding on to anger was hurting me more than it was hurting you. So I let it go. But forgiveness does not mean reconciliation, Amber. It just means I am done carrying you." Amber nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Your daughter is beautiful," she said. "I saw the photos. In the magazine article." "Thank you," Josie said. "She is my whole world." "I am happy for you," Amber said, and she meant it. "I hope you find happiness too," Josie replied. "Real happiness, not the kind you steal from someone else." She walked away, back to Roxanne and Cecilia, back to her life. And as she looked at her daughter, giggling and reaching for the twinkle lights, Josie realized something. She had won, not because she destroyed them, but because she outlived the pain, because she built something beautiful from the ashes, because she chose joy over bitterness, purpose over revenge, herself over everyone who asked her to be less. And that, my friends, is the real victory. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for letting this story into your heart. If it changed something for you, pass it on. The world needs more stories about people who rise, who rebuild, who refuse to be broken. Subscribe, share, comment, and remember, you are stronger than what broke you. You are worth more than how they valued you. And your story is not over. It is just beginning. This is Mr. Hearthline, reminding you that every ending is just a new beginning in disguise. See you in the next story.